Hey, Viva Lifers. This is Dr. Kelly OMD, your board certified OBGYN and healthcare executive, and here to help you live your healthiest and wealthiest life. And we call that Viva Life. Viva means live, and of course, life after that. We have 5 pillars that we focus on, and those are spiritual, physical, financial, mental, and emotional. We do 5 things as far as eating. We focus on eating our fruits and vegetables, nuts, grains, beans, and drinking our water. And throughout the month, we have 5 offerings. Here, you're at the webinar, and that's Mondays at 7:30. We also have an executive office hours once a month, an affirmation room, which allows you to take the journal, the Viva Life SPF Me journal, and speak that out loud. What do you want to see happen? It's kind of like a verbal vision boarding that we do every month. And of course, we have our podcast that posts 5 times a week, and that is called Viva Life SPF Me. It starts with your word of the day, the affirmation for the day, as well as some tips and tricks about how to let go, how to call forth what you want to happen in your life, and always be grateful. So that being said, tonight we have a special guest, Sonia Stovall. We are so excited to have her here. She is going to tell us about navigating the waters, especially in this new leadership season, about diversity, equity, and inclusion. So Sonia, tell us a little bit about yourself and the top 3 things you want us to know tonight.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Kelly, and hello to all the Viva Lifers. So my original background was in broadcast journalism, and then I went to law school. They are ironically very similar, but I actually had an experience with my constitutional seminar with Clarence Thomas. So that was taught by him, and it was supposed to be a great honor, but he and I actually had very differing ideas about the way forward for people in the United States. And that's totally okay. However, getting that law degree helped me a lot with my critical thinking. And eventually I became a professor and I started to re-evaluate the diversity curriculum at the school where I was teaching until I finally just redid the entire curriculum. After 10 years of kind of teaching diversity, I realized we were kind of doing it wrong. And so I wanted to create a different approach. And my top 3 tips for everybody that I want you to take away is called ROE. If you're taking notes, ROE, row like caviar, respect, openness, and empathy. Those are the 3 things you're going to need to navigate in the new waters, the uncharted waters. So I'm glad that, that works with what you said, rowing.
Absolutely. So it's ROE, but we're talking about the ROW, but we're going to tonight bring it to that caviar. And, that is so important, that understanding your background and how we can utilize different backgrounds and pivot into where we can make a positive impact in people's lives. So it's not where you started, but here's where you are now, and you are bringing it to us. So that being said, we're ready to sit back, listen for the next 7 to 10 minutes, and hear about No Offense.
Fantastic. So, No Offense is a mobile app, but what I'm here to talk to you about tonight is how to ask questions and do that rowing: respect, openness, and empathy. So first of all, we all want to be treated with respect. And I think respect is just the minimum, to quote one of the songs from Lauryn Hill's initial album. Openness is also an opportunity for you to learn. And so you really need to have a growth mindset, and that's going to come from authenticity. Are you actually interested in that topic with the other person? Are you actually interested in what's going on with them? Because we've all been spoken to disrespectfully. We've all known when someone is maybe asking us about ourselves or our lives or a situation, and they just want the tea. They don't actually feel any concern. And then empathy. And I'm going to do a quick definition of empathy versus sympathy. And I'll give you an example because I feel like that's easiest for everyone rather than like the Webster's version. So sympathy is, let's say you know someone who was in a car accident and they got hurt. You've never been in a car accident, but you want to let them know that you care and you feel concerned. So you go and you get a greeting card and you give that to them and you say, hey, I hope that you get better. And that's the end of it. And so that is kind of sympathy. Empathy would be more of if you had to be them in the hospital for a month, where you really take yourself and think about things from their perspective, not your own. And that can be very difficult. And empathy requires a lot of energy from yourself. So you've got to be willing and in a good space for yourself, which is why it's so important to take care of yourself and your own mental health, which I believe is one of the 5 pillars for Viva Lifers, in order to do that kind of work. So number one, you're going to actively listen. And active listening is kind of the leaning forward, the okay, and you're going to be asking open-ended questions, the how, the why, that sort of thing. How did you come to that conclusion? Let's say you disagree with someone about their views on something. How did you come to that conclusion? Is a great way to have that conversation if you're open to having that conversation, rather than something like, what makes you think that? That immediately closes up the conversation, cuts that person off. They don't want to share with you. They're not going to be vulnerable with you. And so whether it's your personal life, your academic life, your professional career, asking open-ended questions is incredibly important, and so is active listening. I hope there's lots of questions at the end.
Absolutely. No, we're listening, and that's why I was quiet right there for a second.
Yeah. So some other things I'll throw out there for you, for those of you who take notes. I know sometimes people like to take notes, is can you help me understand? And I think it's important how you phrase that. Obviously, your tone of voice is very important, because you don't want to come off like, can you help me understand? Basically, the voice tone is saying, I think you're kind of crazy. Can you help me understand how you came to this conclusion? So it's really going to be about offering respect, offering openness, and openness is going to mean that you are genuinely curious. That genuine curiosity has to be there. And you want the same thing when someone's speaking to you about something you're going through in your life, or even if it's a work project and you and a coworker have different ideas on how to reach a conclusion or how to approach a project. Asking open-ended questions after you've actively listened, after you've ensured that you are genuinely open to their perspective, is really important for moving forward and success. And that builds the team, builds relationship, no matter what kind of relationship it is. It builds relationships, it keeps things open. And so the benefit of this is later on, when, let's say you're talking about this project with a colleague, they say, you know what, we think very differently, but this person is very open to other perspectives. I would really like to talk to them, or they're the right person for this project, because they're going to be respectful, they're going to be open to another view, and they're going to try and understand someone else's perspective. And that is, I mean, that's gold. Imagine if you could do that with family members, if you could do that if you're an academic. And I wanted to mention, for the mobile app that I launched earlier this year with No Offense, academics is very important, and it's so important to us. And we have so much respect for people who are working towards school or have been in the service, that if you've got an .edu email and you subscribe with us, you're going to get our best price, and you're going to get the same content as a higher level subscription, just because my mother was an educator and I have a lot of respect for that. I myself have been a professor for 10 years, and I wanted to let everyone out there know. Now, that doesn't mean we don't love and respect our other subscribers, but I think those of us who've had that experience, or you've gone to school, or you know someone in the service, understand that that is a struggle. And I think any opportunity that we can create to let them know that they have our love and support is an opportunity I personally want to take. So I just wanted to mention that quickly. And
No,
then,
I really appreciate that. So going back, so the No Offense app. So tell us a little bit about this app, and then what you're able to do in it and how it can actually help you at work or at home.
well, thank you for asking. So the No Offense app, I get very excited. I never thought, coming from law school, that I would be in tech. So this is one of those life pivots where you're like, how did I get here? I consider myself a writer and a lawyer. So the No Offense app is something that I created because it's important to me that we as individuals, not just, work DEI training programs where people sometimes don't really engage, or they think, oh, here this comes, another time. your phone's in your pocket. If you have a growth mindset and you are open to learning about someone else and you have that curiosity, this is an opportunity for you to go into your phone and nobody has to know. If you feel embarrassed or you don't feel confident about learning things, we have sections like questions people ask people in a burqa and
Mm.
people who wear hijabs and are performing military service. We have questions straight men ask gay men, the model minority, which applies to people of Asian descent who are considered, the good minority. And this is coming from their perspective. So we've got humorous videos. We have a section called Ask Me Anything, where you can go into the community and literally ask our team anything. I've been asked questions like, have you ever been called the N-word? People will write in and ask about situations they have at work where they're feeling, for example, their boss or supervisor. The most recent one, a woman was feeling very disrespected because she was trying to press something she felt would be beneficial for her organization. And her boss said, "Whoa, are you getting agitated?" And she was the only woman in the room.
Mm.
And she was so angry, but she couldn't pinpoint why she was so angry with that. And she
Hmm.
reached out to No Offense. She asked a question, and I just wrote back, kind of what she was feeling emotionally and validating. Yes, that happens where you're being emotional. And so maybe he didn't say you're being emotional and he used agitated, but we know that that's pretty much along the same lines. So that was very helpful for her. She wrote me back and said that that was very hopeful. That was one that I answered personally, but I think it's great. And Ask Me Anything is something that I really believe in, and I do that in my in-person workshops. So I transferred it to the app, and there will be webinars on there. Sometimes they're just 10 minutes. We have one called Intention versus Impact, where
Mm.
you learn that your intention is not the end all be all. What impact did your intention and your actions have on the other person? That's what really matters. That's where the relationship gets built or deteriorates.
Everything that you said, I know that the people that are currently listening and the ones that will listen in the future have had experiences in this. So I want you all to start getting your questions ready because, of course, I already have questions just based on what you said already. I want to take it back to the person that, they had a difficult situation at work and they were able to ask you because we have this platform, which is Ask Dr. Kelly OMD, and we have something called executive office hours where people bring in their questions from work or professional or personal, right? So having that capability, what have you noticed from the people that are able to use that? Like, how has that positively impacted them or changed how they're able to go forward the next day? Let's see. We always ask that question. What are you going to do differently with this information?
That's that's great. So this particular woman that I'm talking about right now actually wrote back in the app and said that even though she didn't feel that she could change her boss or, the directors that she was working with, she had a better understanding of where they were coming from. She also understood herself better and why she felt so angry. And it informed how she was going to respond and reach out in the future. And she actually decided to have a one-on-one with that particular person who was saying those types of things. And she said, even though I know he's not going to change, even though things may not change, now I've set a boundary.
I,
And
yeah, no, I think that's so important because a lot of what we do is give people the confidence and courage to actually communicate their
communicate.
concerns, right? So those are the three C's. I love threes and fives. That's what I do. But yeah, you giving somebody the courage, the confidence, and the ability to communicate their concerns. And if the person is receptive to it, wonderful. We can actually make headway and we can make change together. And you're probably going to have somebody that's like, you know what, we can work together. This is somewhere I want to be. Versus if you're not able to make headway, then, one or the other person is going to pivot to another direction. But at least they've gotten off their chest in a professional way, of course, what's going on, and they're trying to make the movement towards making it better. So I think that, is totally wonderful. And it's something that is like an intangible, like you can't put a price on courage and confidence and clear communication. But we know what happens when that breaks down. And we know that organizations, families,
Yeah.
essentially don't do as well as they could when we don't have that. So thank you so much for that answer. We do have a question. It says, it's challenging to be open-minded when one has experienced negative interactions. How do you recommend being open when you believe you'll be triggered? Great question.
That is a great question. I feel that if you are going to feel activated, perhaps you need to start with yourself. What
Mm,
is it that's activating your emotions in that way, rather than just trying to jump in and fix it? If you're able, I would create a boundary, uh, find out what it is that's activating you, triggering you in those ways, write it out, however that works for you, speak to your therapist, journal about it, that sort of thing. And then when you have to go back to those interactions, and if it's work, for example, you can't really escape it, not only do you know when they say something that you're ready for it. And I use it this way. I tell my students a lot of times on social media and in the news, they're using words and catchphrases in order to activate your emotions, because that's how they get you to buy things. That's how they get you to watch. That's how they get you to click. And it is up to you to make the determination that you're in control and they're not going to change your personal algorithm with those catchphrases and those types of words. So that's what I would suggest to you, is start with yourself and then move back into it as you can. And if you need to set a boundary and say, I'm not ready to talk about that right now, or I have a different perspective and I'll share it with you later, then please feel free to use those words.
that is such a good question and a great response. So I love the fact that you changed the word trigger to activate. Can you
Yes.
tell me about that and why?
I choose to use the word activate because I'm trying to move away from the kind of subversive gun culture that we have in the
Mhm,
United States. And we have
mhm.
so many words that we use, and we don't even really think about how we're conditioning ourselves to accept that.
I love that, because when I ask people, what are you going to do differently tomorrow? That is definitely something. Sorry. What are you going to do differently tomorrow? That is definitely something that I think that I can change that verbiage. So
Yes.
it's not such a murder culture, right?
Mhm.
And I think that, when we think trigger, we think gun violence. And how I love that word activate. Great question. Thank you so much for that question. We do have another question here. How do you handle nonverbal communication in situations when you are trying to row? Oh, that's so cute. I love that. ROE.
Well, let's see. Let's see. Sheila, thank you, Sheila, for that question. Nonverbal communication, as most of us know, is going to be 90+% of what's going on. So if you're getting the face, if you're getting the shoulders, they're moving away from you, and you can just see in their nonverbal that they are angry or upset or in some way feeling activated, and it's on their face or in their body. And usually it's difficult for people to hide that.
Mm,
My suggestion to you would be to stop and go ahead and say, so I want to be respectful of how you might be feeling right now. Is what I'm saying activating anything for you? Is it bringing something up for you that's negative? So just go ahead and stop, because at that point you can change the direction of what's going on. And they may need help with that. They may not understand that they're activated, like the question earlier, trying to deal with feeling activated and handling an interaction. So they may not have those skills that I'm telling you about right now.
And it's so true, because I mean, we know that there's a communication barrier in many respects, because people are not taught how to communicate. And especially with the new way we're communicating, online, texting, that whole thing, there's no tone of voice, there's no eye presence, there's inability to even see the nonverbal. Sometimes all you can do is read the nonverbal, right? So you have to be able to read between the lines as well. But I think you just make a great point in that, to just stop, take those deep breaths and settle yourselves. And it typically can take 3 to 5 seconds to do that. Now, the important part is when you are activated to be able to remember to do that, like come back in yourself. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes I have to, before I even go in a meeting, especially if you know that the person that you're about to meet with typically activates you, then I have to be on like -25 before I go in the meeting, meaning that like, instead of being up here, even though I'm like, holly jolly, happy, all this other stuff, I got to even bring that down so that if something is said or done, that I can just take those breaths and be like, okay. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but we're all have a growth mindset and we're always trying to be better, right?
Give yourself grace. Give yourself grace. You're not
Give
going to
ourselves grace. I love it.
Interaction.
Yeah, exactly. That part, remember. Yes, absolutely. So we have another question. In today's political divide, I find it difficult to keep emotions out of conversations. What methods can I use to keep myself in row in these situations so that I listen to those with opposing views instead of shutting down? Great question.
Well, that is a fantastic question. And I think that's a question a lot of people have. And thank you for that, Melissa. The first thing I'm going to say is protect your peace. And you and I were talking earlier about our word for the day. And my word for this month, the last month, has been peace and protecting your peace. So much so that I have actually developed a 2025 planner called Protect Your Peace. And that'll be available soon on Amazon. But to answer your question, Melissa, I know that that's difficult. I'm going to give you similar advice that I gave to Sheila and Tanya, which is number one, understand your boundaries. If you already know that person's going to activate you, if you want to set a boundary where you're not going to discuss that, I understand. But also, it sounds like you feel like these are important conversations to have. Is that correct? So I want to honor that as well. So in order to stay in row, number one, respect that that's their belief. And if your values don't align with their values based on their political choices, that may feel unfortunate, especially if it's a personal relationship or a work colleague, and that may be hard to swallow. But number one, respect means let them have it. Let them be there. They may learn their own lessons based on the choices that they've made. And at some point, they may want to talk to you about it. Openness is going to be difficult because it sounds like there's just a flat disagreement. But openness can also look like let them say something, let them feel heard, and then implement your boundary. I hear what you're saying. Thanks for sharing that with me. This isn't something I feel safe discussing right now. So let's just leave it there. I value our relationship, whatever that may be, and we're just going to need to agree to disagree.
I love that. That's when you said feeling safe in this space right now. I think that is something that a lot of us don't actually say. I want to feel safe in this space. I want you to feel safe in this space. I think that makes a huge difference there. I remember having an experience where in 2020, we had a change in leadership, and I had I would say a directorate divided. Okay, just like the results came out, that's where I had 100 people and it was divided. But one of the things that we did that next day when either people were happy or they had a sad face on, I brought everybody together and said, if there is one thing we're going to do is we're going to respect the humanness of every single person in this room. And I didn't take sides or anything like that. I just said, you know what? Certain people feel one way, certain people feel another way. What we do have is a mission to complete, and that has to do with these patients that we need to take care of. So if you need to take the time, if you need to understand people better, or you've decided, you know what, that's not the discussion that I want to have, please, by all means, take that time. But just know that I respect each one of you as human beings. You're going to have different opinions, and it may be about this or something else, but we are going to move forward with the mission that we are all able to do. And I will tell you that I will say the emotions did not linger in our space for the same amount of time that it lingered in other parts of the organization that we're with. And I really believe that is because I came up from it, like you said, from that humanistic standpoint that we may disagree, but we're going to respect each other as the human beings that we are and focus on the mission. What were
Well,
you going to say?
Humanity is what we have in common. And when you're using the app, it's an opportunity for you to learn from other people's lived experiences. So in 2025, we're opening up our lived experiences content, and we're starting with Jason. And Jason is someone who went out for a bike ride one day. He was a competitive cyclist, and he came home in a chair built for a quadriplegic. However, he continues to cycle, he continues to do marathons, and he's going to share with us what it's like for him to get up. What does it take for him to get ready for the day? Things that we may take for granted. And the premise of that whole content is, I'm just going to get in this handicap spot real quick. But what does that do to someone like Jason's whole day? That 10 minutes for us could mean an hour for him, for his whole day to be off. But people, I feel, understand stories and resonate with stories. And as someone who is a writer, that's what I want to bring to them. And so we'll have lots of content like that. I'm so excited for lived experiences next year. We're going to meet Jason. We're going to meet Jenny, who is an Ashkenazi Jew who grew up in Colombia. I just did that interview the other day.
Oh, how amazing.
We'll have 2 mixed race women, both of whom are African American, one who grew up with a white mom and one who grew up with a Black mom, and what their experience is in the United States.
I absolutely love that. I can't wait to hear about I can't wait to visit those lived experiences, because you're right. People understand stories. And when you can connect with people on that human level and realize that if you listen, there may be more in common than you don't have in common, that makes a huge difference on how you move forward, especially when we're talking about impersonal and professional relationships. It makes a huge difference on if you can move forward and how you move forward and having that growth mindset. So I think we're almost at the end of our time. So Sonia, tell us, how do we get in touch with you and how do we get your No Offense app?
So No Offense is available on Apple App Store as well as the Google Play Store. So I believe I have a slide with the icon on there. So when you find this icon, you'll know you've gotten to the right place. You can contact us at info@nooffenseapp.com. And I can type it if that would be easier. I know sometimes people are visual and it's easier. I'm a visual person. So I'm going to type that in here for everyone.
All right. And then I just posted what your app icon looks like. So info@nooffenseapp.com. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, everybody, for asking questions. I think this is, so important, especially right now as we are moving into 2025. We need everybody to feel safe and being able to ask questions and not offending other people as they ask them. And keep that open mind, and don't forget to row. So I'm Dr. Kelly OMD, your board certified OBGYN and healthcare executive, here to help you live your healthiest and wealthiest life. Please follow us on all of our social media and just type in Viva Life on Instagram, Facebook, as well as LinkedIn, and of course, Google or Safari. We are here to serve and to assist you into living that better life. Have a wonderful day, and Viva Life. All right. Thank you for being a part of the Viva Life experience. I'm Dr. Kelly OMD, board certified OBGYN and healthcare executive. If you like what you heard, then please go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. The reason why is because we are trying to educate, encourage, and inspire 1 million people to live their healthiest and wealthiest life. And this is what we're bringing you. We're bringing you educational videos. We're bringing you podcasts. We are bringing you webinars with subject matter experts, including myself, about the topics that affect you the most. So go ahead, like, subscribe, and share. We are everywhere. Have a wonderful day. Viva Life.